Did you ever play Bratz Rock Angels on the Game Boy Advanced? When you boot up the game, you're met with the typical copyright disclaimer, company logos, and then this plays. It's an inoffensive animation that introduces each character and their logo before transitioning to the game's main menu. There is nothing special about this opening. Except for one thing. The song. Listen to it again. Does it sound familiar? Probably not, right? The song isn't listed in the game's soundtrack, and there's no lyrics for you to sing along to or have memorized. For all intents and purposes, the song just seems like another generic original soundtrack entry made specifically for the game. But it's not. What if I told you that this song is arguably the most important entry in the entire Bratz discography? That without this song, Bratz probably would have never released So Good, Bratz Forever Diamonds, or really any music at all? What if I told you that this song is one of the last remaining traces of a Bratz experiment that has been almost completely erased from history? An experiment that included a K-pop legend, a partnership with a confectionery company, and a now lost TV show. Because what if I told you that this song marked the beginning of an era? What was that era? Well, it was that one time that the Bratz became J-pop idols. Okay, so what the hell am I talking about? Let's start at the beginning.
Passion for fashion, passion for fashion, passion for fashion.
On May 21st of 2001, Chloe, Jade, Yasmin and Sasha, collectively known as the Bratz, were introduced to the world. They were 4 10-inch fashion dolls created by Carter Bryant for the toy company MGA Entertainment, and immediately gained notability for their lush painted lips, chunky removable shoes, and unique street style aesthetic. However, upon their launch, that notability didn't exactly translate to sales, and the Bratz dolls basically flopped. Mattel's Golden Girl Barbie simply held too much of a monopoly over the fashion doll market, leading to the Bratz dolls selling so below expectations that Toys R Us infamously cancelled their orders for the dolls. But MGA Entertainment wasn't going to be discouraged by a giraffe. Despite the early setback, they continued to push the dolls, investing in commercials and advertisements that thankfully eventually paid off. Because by the time Christmas of that year rolled around, the Bratz had well and truly taken off, and they had nowhere to go but up. By the end of 2002, Bratz had won Girls' Toy of the Year and become one of the most in-demand dolls on the market. 3 years later in 2005, they had grossed more than $2 billion. Simply put, all around the world, girls were obsessed with Bratz. From America, Canada, the United Kingdom and Australia to South Africa, Brazil, the Philippines and Japan. Yeah, in Japan, the Bratz dolls were severely underperforming. Despite partnering with Tomy, a Japanese toy brand, and redesigning the dolls to be more budget-friendly, the Japanese toy market just wasn't taking to Bratz. And in the eyes of MGA, this was a big problem. Japan was, and still is, considered one of the largest toy markets in the world, and Japanese consumers are known to be extremely loyal, willing to spend a significant amount of money on the brands they love. So of course, MGA Entertainment didn't want to miss out on that sweet, sweet cash, and they quickly realized that if they wanted the Bratz dolls to succeed in the country, they needed a new strategy. One that went beyond just aesthetic or price changes and instead allowed the Bratz brand to align with Japanese pop culture in a way the dolls alone couldn't. And on the 20th of January 2003, MGA Entertainment partnered with a different Japanese toy brand, this time Takara, as well as the music label Avex, to announce that new strategy. Bratz itself will be branded as an artist and talent. Specifically, Bratz will be assigned as virtual artists. Wait, what?
1, 2, 3, 4.
On paper, the strategy of taking the Bratz dolls and making them into virtual singers sounds honestly ridiculous. And that's because it is. But within the context of Japan's media landscape, it's also actually kind of genius. For those unaware, a huge part of Japan's music market is the idol industry, which revolves around carefully managed performers who are marketed for their personality and image just as much as they are for their talent. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, the industry saw a pretty significant boom thanks to the success of the girl group Morning Musume and the sudden development of different niche markets, with one of these markets being virtual idols, a phenomenon that was quickly gaining momentum due to technological advancements and the success of virtual artists like Lin Minmay and bands like Gorillaz. Bratz, the former of which would actually later be dubbed the first virtual idol. But then why exactly would a toy company choose to promote their characters as virtual idols and not as dolls? Well, to put it simply, the idol industry is incredibly lucrative. Audiences naturally support the artists they love by buying their music and merchandise. But the idol industry thrives on parasocial relationships, which encourage fans to financially support their favorite performers far beyond what many would consider to be a reasonable amount. Which is not to say that these idols aren't deserving of financial support, just to emphasize that these fans spend a lot of money, with some being known to spend upwards of thousands of dollars per year. But this combination of financial devotion and cultural significance created the perfect opportunity for the Bratz team. If selling just the dolls wasn't working, they could sell the characters as virtual idols and then promote the dolls and accompanying merchandise as extensions of those idols. And the fans, hypothetically, would eat it up. So on the 27th of August 2003, the Bratz team put their plan into motion, and Bratz made their official debut as a virtual J-pop idol group with the release of their first single, Show Me What You Got. Show Me What You Got was written by Motsu with music by Ken Harada, and as you would expect, vocally the track is led primarily by the Bratz, whose lineup of course consisted of Chloe, Jade, Yasmin, and Sasha, but also Dana, a character that debuted in 2002 and quickly became a sort of honorary fifth core member. However, the single also includes two incredibly notable featured artists, the first being one of the most successful K-pop legends of all time, BoA, and the second being the most popular member of the Backstreet Boys according to one person on Reddit, Howie D. And since you're probably wondering how the song managed to get those two artists to feature, it's worth mentioning that for her activities in Japan, BoA is signed under the same record label that the Bratz were, and the Backstreet Boys were on hiatus at the time, so Howie probably didn't have much to do and needed a side quest. But Show Me What You Got, along with its two B-sides, Can You Feel the Beat? And Distance, both of which also featured music by Ken Harada and were written by Allison and Maki Mihara respectively, was available to purchase on a CD complete with a booklet and Bratz stickers. And considering the single was a debut, it sold surprisingly well. Show Me What You Got reached number 37 on the Japan Oricon singles charts and stayed there for 6 weeks, having sold around 11,000 copies. It was even performed live for the first and last time at the A-Nation AVEX Summer Festa in 2003, where during her set, BoA was joined on stage by Howie D, and the duo performed the song in place of the Bratz themselves. And although the song's success can absolutely be attributed to its A and maybe like B+ list featured artists, it was also without a doubt assisted by the creation of a certain video. Because you can't release a debut single without On the same day that the Show Me What You Got single hit shelves, its music video premiered on Nippon TV, and it is cinema. Directed by Kiyohisa Nakamura, the music video, which is notably live action, opens with the Bratz arriving at their Welcome to Tokyo concert, adoring fans screaming as they step out of their limo and onto the red carpet. From there, the video alternates between clips of the Bratz performing at the concert, their doll equivalents posing doing interviews and dancing, and BoA and Howie D in the recording studio, with said sequences unified using cinematic techniques that have become hallmarks of early 2000s J-pop and Western pop music videos, such as lens flares, fade transitions, and so much slow motion. These techniques make the music video feel more like something you could stumble across on MTV rather than purely a commercial for dolls, which works well in presenting the Bratz as serious pop artists who also just happen to have dolls in stores available now, please buy them. But this effect is also strengthened by how the video actively emphasizes the song's choreography and the Bratz group's performance ability, which makes sense considering dance and charisma are essential components of idol culture. Though this does raise an important question. How does a fully live-action music video firmly position the Bratz as virtual idols and not just as real people? The answer is mask. The performers standing in for the Bratz are never credited, and throughout the video, they remain completely anonymous. Hence why the most prominent feature of the Bratz costuming is an eye mask printed with the Bratz doll's iconic eye design. Not only does the accessory give the video a surreal, almost dreamlike quality, but it also serves the practical and deliberate purpose of obscuring the performers' faces. By denying the audience a human face to connect to, the video prevents any one person from being associated with a specific Bratz girl, preserving the illusion that the Bratz are autonomous virtual artists rather than characters being played by real performers. Performers you could potentially later recognize and be upset with if they got replaced. With that in mind, the rest of the costume elements also deserve attention. The main outfits in the Show Me What You Got music video are not adapted from any specific Bratz doll line, and instead, the live-action performers and their doll counterparts wear matching looks created specifically for this video. And true to the Bratz brand, the styling is trendy and individualized, emphasizing each character's unique personality and style while ensuring the group stays visually cohesive. Each character wears a monochromatic white outfit, but no two are the same. Dana wears a soft ruffled dress that leans more traditionally feminine, Yasmin a 60s inspired bohemian top and shorts, Sasha a bold silver hem tube top and low-rise jeans, Jade a bralette and fluffy pants, and Chloe long flowing fabrics. Although interestingly, the doll versions of the characters do also wear secondary outfits that appear to be pulled from existing doll lines. Sasha's second look matches her Strut at First Edition doll, while Jade wears the outfit she wore in the Slumber Party line. The other characters are harder to pin down, but the contrast suggests an intentional, albeit subtle blending of the Bratz Idol identities with their established doll catalogue. It's a visual reminder that while this music video was primarily about music and performance, it was never fully disconnected from the physical dolls on shelves. Please buy them. But as a piece of media and a crucial component of the Bratz J-pop era, the Show Me What You Got music video was what allowed the Bratz to define their aesthetic and style as legitimate virtual idols. It displayed the talent of the group and that they could put on a show just as well as their counterparts. Though as mentioned earlier, talent is just one part of what makes a J-pop idol well, a J-pop idol. Success also depends on personality and the ability to build a connection deeper than just musician and listener. And though the Show Me What You Got music video and single as a whole might have successfully showcased the group's performance skill, it couldn't provide that sense of personal connection. Instead, that responsibility fell to a different piece of the puzzle that was the 2003 Bratz in Japan campaign, a piece that has since largely vanished from history. The lost Bratz TV show, Cool TV. On Thursday, July 3rd of 2003 at 9:54 p.m, the first episode of Cool TV premiered in Japan on the Nippon TV channel. The show aired in 6-minute weekly installments and was the first Bratz animated series, utilizing stop-motion animation to tell the stories of the Bratz and their adventures in Japan. Though at the time of recording this, only 4 of those adventures, and therefore the plots of 4 episodes, are known. One episode saw the Bratz attending a matchmaking party, a second where the Bratz sat in seiza, a traditional Japanese way of sitting while wearing kimonos, a third where the girls went to a Japanese temple, and possibly most notably, a fourth where the Bratz promoted their new single Show Me What You Got alongside a Japanese radio host, which was fitting considering Show Me What You Got was actually Cool TV's theme song. And of course, as a show exclusive to the Japanese market, the dialogue was performed entirely in Japanese, with the cast including Chiaki Kawamoto as Yasmin, Rumi Sabnani as Chloe, Asami Yoshida as Jade, and Hannah Erica Koller as Dana. The voice actress for Sasha is currently unknown, however the Looking Bratz database suggests that her voice was a rotating cast of celebrities, though the source of this information isn't provided and therefore couldn't be verified. Unfortunately, despite its ambition, Cool TV reportedly faced criticism almost immediately upon its premiere. Fans and casual viewers alike complained of the show's late airing time, and according to some sources, conservative Japanese viewers disliked the dolls in the show. For the record, the Bratz dolls, like pretty much any fashion doll line, have always been controversial for their body proportions and clothing. But allegedly, some Japanese viewers felt that the show's concept, which they described as foreign dolls mocking Japanese traditions, was inappropriate and offensive. Hence, the show would sadly be cancelled after around 8 episodes, with its finale airing in September of 2003. And that's pretty much where Cool TV's story ends. In 2003, streaming barely existed and the short series was never released on home video, so as of right now, Cool TV is just completely lost media. Thankfully, there are some remaining traces of the show's existence, including PC wallpapers, the show's logo, a handful of behind-the-scenes images, and of course the music video for the show's theme song, Show Me What You Got. But otherwise, the show has been lost to time. Cool TV Me was the first ever Bratz TV show, making its release an incredibly significant moment for the brand. And to be clear, its failure wasn't necessarily a failure of concept, but possibly more of execution and timing. The show's conclusion, however, makes the Show Me What You Got single even more important, because it means the single isn't just a fun J-pop debut. It's a substantial piece of evidence, arguably the central artifact, of the Bratz' most ambitious yet most obscure early piece of media. However, the end of Cool TV wasn't the end of the Bratz J-pop Idol era. There was still one final hurrah. Or rather whimper. Show Me What You Got and its two B-sides were not the only songs released by the Bratz J-pop group. On November 27th of 2003, they released their first comeback single Look Around, featuring American singer Christina Milian and verbal from the critically acclaimed Japanese hip-hop group M-Flow, all of which assisted in the song's writing alongside Chiaki.
No need to look around, it's right in front of you. A friend to share the joy and be glad with the Bratz.
The release of Look Around coincided with a promotional partnership between the Japanese confectionery company Morinaga and the Bratz, which saw the Bratz girls featured in commercials for the company's then new baked chocolate bars. In the idol industry, it is standard practice for major brands to partner with idols for endorsements, so this collaboration served to further the image of the Bratz as idols first and dolls you could buy second. Please buy them. Though unfortunately, Look Around, unlike its predecessor, did not receive a music video and wasn't able to chart in Japan. And in hindsight, this quiet reception signaled the direction the Bratz J-pop journey was officially headed. Despite the high-profile campaign, including a charting debut single, an ambitious but now lost TV show, and a national partnership with Morinaga, the Bratz virtual idol strategy was ultimately unsuccessful, and the Bratz dolls still underperformed in Japan. Though the overall brand was still thriving globally, and would go on to release a Japan-themed doll line called Tokyo A Go-Go in 2004, showing they held no ill will towards the country. But sadly, to this day, the Bratz don't hold a massive presence in the Japanese market, and their days as J-pop idols are well and truly over, though they never officially disbanded. So I like to think they're still active to an extent, especially considering that the Bratz have continued to release music to this day. In 2005, the brand released their debut album Rock Angels, the soundtrack album to the film of the same name, which also happened to spawn the Game Boy Advance game that marked the last time Show Me What You Got was utilized by the Bratz brand. But Rock Angels would become their highest charting album and include the single So Good, which was not only nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award in 2007 for Outstanding Original Song for a Children's Animated Show, but also charted in multiple countries, leading to it being considered one of, if not the best Bratz songs. After Rock Angels, Bratz continued to release soundtrack albums roughly twice a year that coincided with their respective films, including Genie Magic, Forever Diamonds, Fashion Pixies, the live-action film, and Girls Really Rock, before their music activities quietly paused in 2008. Thankfully though, they did eventually make a comeback with the 2022 single Bratz (Bratz TV Mix, and followed up with the 2023 We Are the Bratz. But by far their most notable recent effort was 2025's Think About It, which received a fully animated music video.
I'ma just go check the message. Gotta make a good impression, yeah. Nails done, hair done, perfection. Gonna have the time of our lives.
But there is an argument to be made that none of this music would have ever happened if the Bratz had never had their J-pop idol era and released Show Me What You Got, the single that successfully charted in Japan and showed MGA that there was potential for Bratz music to succeed, that their music had room to grow, evolve, and eventually return years later. Show Me What You Got is not available on Spotify or really any Western streaming services, nor are any of its B-sides or the song Look Around. Cool TV is effectively lost to time, and sadly the chances of it resurfacing are pretty low. Hell, I can't even find if baked chocolate bars still exist. If I had to describe it, the Bratz J-pop Idol era is almost like a ghost in the brand's history. During its peak, it was incredibly high profile, but today, tracking down even the most basic information regarding this era is a challenge. But the pieces that can be found reveal a fascinating experiment in cross-cultural branding and the incredible versatility of the Bratz dolls. It's not often that fictional characters successfully transition to being full-blown virtual artists or idols. It's even less common for dolls to do so. Yet for a few months, Bratz tried, and to an extent succeeded. So if nothing else, this era should be a lesson in appreciating things while we have them. Even more so, a lesson in how doll media history can slip through the cracks, no matter how impactful it was to one of the most successful doll brands in history. So next time you crack open Bratz Rock Angels on the Game Boy Advance and you hear that opening song, Remember, it's not just a song. It's the remains of an ambition, and a reminder that sometimes even a tiny, low-quality Game Boy intro song can end up being an important piece of media history. Imagine if I just wore this for the entire video.